Triskaidekaphobia? I've never had a problem with the number 13, especially when it's the age of a whiskey. Let's do this. Welcome to Whisky Riffs. If it's your first time here, my name's Kevin, and I really appreciate you stopping by to watch my video. Today I have a couple bottles for you. I recently went on a distillery tour of the Highlands with my wife Judy. We went to several distilleries with the idea that if I could buy bottles that I can't get in the US, we'll go ahead and pick them up. So when we went to the Aberlour distillery back in October 2021, I found these two beauties on the shelf and asked, are they going to be available in the US? And the answer was no. So I went ahead and grabbed them. The first Aberlour is a distillery exclusive, aged for 13 years in American Oak Casks, and it's bottled in August of 2020 at 51.3% ABV. It's non-chill filtered, which is fantastic, and this is actually bottle number 487. So there are a limited number of bottles that were put together. It lists on the Aberlour site for 75 pounds, but it said it's out of stock right now, so it may be a very difficult bottle to get. And this is a UK sized bottle of 70 CL or 700 milliliters. The second is a cask single edition, aged for 13 years in sherry butt. This is cask strength, so it's 60.9% ABV, and it's non-chill filtered. It's also available on the Aberlour website. This one says it's not out of stock, so you may actually be able to get it, but it's 90 pounds. This bottle is a bit smaller though. It's only 50 CL or 500 milliliters, which means you're getting a third less than a normal American size 750 milliliter bottle of whiskey. Now, I don't know if there's any caramel coloring to either of these expressions. Aberlour does not add caramel coloring to their Abuna expression, but they do for their core range of their 12, 16, 18, and even the Cascanav. So there could be coloring in here. I'm going to guess because it's distillery exclusive bottles that maybe there isn't. Before we went to this distillery, Judy and I are actually staying in the town of Aberlour, and the distillery was simply a few minute walk down the street and around the corner. We walked in and were surprised to find that the glasses we had to taste out of were black. So this was a blind tasting. The host was trying to get us to guess which one was not the Aberlour, which was stressful. It's like, oh God, I should know which one's not the Aberlour. And they were tricky. I mean, there were some really good expressions there, and I'd highly recommend it. Unfortunately, the distillery was under construction. I guess they took advantage of lack of visitors during the pandemic and decided to do some expansion, some painting, some other things. So we didn't get a full tour of the distillery. I'm gonna start with the 13-year-old limited edition, since it doesn't have the sherry cask that the other one does, and I would like to avoid the sherry notes until I taste the American cask one. But I'm getting some nice sweet berry notes, getting a little hint of cinnamon on the nose. What is that fruit? Like peaches or apricots? And some vanilla on the nose as well too. Now Aberlour on their website said that there's sherry notes in this, which doesn't really make sense if it's not aged in a sherry cask, unless it's just getting the extra sherry notes from other casks floating around it in the warehouse. No idea. That's got a kick to it. A lot of spice. You can tell it's 51% ABV. The cinnamon is definitely there as one of the spices. A lot of oak spice though. I am not getting sherry notes, as I would expect. I don't know why the website says that, but I am getting some berries and fruits. It might be a little bit of a raisin note there. Maybe it's plums instead, but it's not the same kind of deep, dark chocolate notes or rich sherry notes that I would expect out of a true sherry-aged whiskey. This tastes more like a very pumped up, amped up 12-year Aberlour expression, their core range one. But very spicy, very spicy. Probably a lot to do with the ABV. We'll add water in a second to check out the difference there. All right, let me try the other one. This one is at cask strength. So we're talking about 60.9% ABV, and this is bottle 639 out of 660. I expect sherry notes out of this one since it's a first fill sherry butt. Woo, that is definitely sherry notes on the nose immediately. Oh, some molasses, or they call it treacle. notes. There's some spice in there that's like cloves. Definitely the dark berries, definitely plums, kind of a confectioner's sugar. Ah, really love the nose on this. This reminds me of the Abuna very much. And that is one of my favorite sherry bomb whiskeys. Color on this is really deep. This is definitely going to be a special sherry experience. And on the nose, it already is a special sherry experience. Oof. That is really nice. The finish wasn't very long, but those flavors really hit me on the back of the tongue, that spiciness and the dark chocolate. Definitely getting raisin notes, dark chocolate, deep black cherries, a lot of the darker fruits. It almost has a sour edge to it. It's so spicy, and then the sweetness in there. It's very thick on my tongue. This is not for someone who's looking at just having a nice little Highland Scotch with a hint of sherry. This is a lot of sherry. Now, another thing they said on the website was a hint of spice. I think this is really spicy, and it's mostly on the finish. I think this is an actual tough one if you don't really love sherry finish. I'm going to grab some water, and we'll see if that changes these very much. Now, water can be added to any whiskey, but especially whiskeys that are at cask strength or near cask strength. You're definitely going to be able to take some water. The spicier one got more spicy. I actually like it without the water. Add just a little bit more to it because it's not going in the right direction for me. Okay, yeah, that tamed it a little bit, but what I'm left with is still more of that drying of my mouth from the oak spices. I didn't get any more fruit notes or much more sweetness. It may have taken down the hit from the ABV, but it ramped up the wood spices for me. So I'm not getting a better flavor, I'm just getting a different flavor. Your mileage may vary. Always try it yourself and make your own opinion about these things. Let's see what it did to the cask strength whiskey. Not much difference on the nose. Actually gave me a little more finish. Oof, still got a lot of ABV. I should not have stuck my nose in that far. Put a little more water in here. It is a pretty high amount of alcohol, so it should be able to take a lot of water. The lighter fruits are definitely coming through in the nose, apricots, peaches, things like that. Yeah, and it took the edge off the sherry. So I actually think that the cask strength did well with 2 or 3 milliliters of water. I might continue to add water to this one. I'm going to experiment a little bit later. What are my feelings and my recommendations on these two whiskeys? They are unique. As a 13-year-old whiskey, I think that they hold their own. There's a reason for them being out there at this age level. I'm always going to appreciate when a distillery gives you more alcohol per volume and gives you more of a kick that you get to play with, that you get to pull down with water. So would I buy these again if I had the chance? Probably not. I don't think there's any reason to pay more for this distillery exclusive of Aberlour. Either one. I think if I want a sherry bomb of a whiskey, I'm still going to go to Aberlour Abuna. It has enough ABV. It does a great job, I think, of balancing out the flavors. This is a bit too sharp and intense. It almost goes past the point of enjoyment for sherry flavors because I want to enjoy that long finish, and I'm really not getting as long a finish on this one as I'd like. I would not say that I'm going to get the single cask edition in the future if they even offer it. But I do appreciate that I got it. I appreciate that I was able to taste it. As far as the 13-year-old here, I don't know. I like, again, that it's 51.3% ABV. I like that they're offering this as an option. We'll see what happens with the general market. They may be adding this to their core line. That's kind of what they told me when I was at the distillery. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I don't know if it's necessary either, because they do have other expressions out there that I think are brilliant. I certainly am a fan of other Aberlour expressions, and for now, I wouldn't spend the time seeking out these distillery exclusives unless you're at the distillery. And then it's a really nice thing to bring home and say, look, I got bottles directly from Aberlour. So if you have different opinions, if you have either of these or any distillery exclusive bottlings that you have strong feelings about, I'd love to hear about those in the comments, and maybe I did something a little different than you did with these particular expressions. I'd love to hear about that too in the comments. And until our next video, take care of yourself, take care of those people around you, and cheers. Oddly enough, I'm enjoying the non-sherried version more than the sherried version. Can't believe I'm putting that down on record, but